Civilization is a problematic word when used in any kind of technical context. I mean this both from the perspective of social justice as well as efficient communication. To put it simply, it is not a particularly useful category. The reason it's unuseful is that there's no universally agreed upon definition, and any attempts to come up with a definition have been met with difficulty. The core difficulty is that because of the dramatic differences between societies, any hard and fast definition will necessarily exclude some example which really ought to be included. For example, many lists of criteria include a writing system as a necessary component. However, this definition excludes societies like the Inca, societies which are more similar to other quote-unquote civilizations than they are to smaller societies. There's also a difficulty on the other end. If you make the criteria wide enough, such that everything that ought to be included is included, then the word basically becomes a synonym for society. It ceases to be a useful distinction of a type of society, it simply becomes society. The next issue is that the word promotes a linear view of history. By categorizing societies into a ranked hierarchy, you are necessarily casting moral judgment. One is more advanced and therefore superior. Now, the issue here is also the next issue with the word, namely that it has been and continues to be a motivator for and justification for colonialism and genocide. Cortez thought he was bringing civilization to the New World. The Americans thought they were civilizing the West at Wounded Knee, and the priests and nuns thought they were civilizing the savage child at the residential schools. All of this ties into the next set of issues, namely that, however naively innocent the academic using the word might be, the word civilization carries with it baggage, and there are implications when labeling one society as a civilization while excluding others. To demonstrate this, I'm going to ask my editor to read off a list of definitions for civilization and related words. Firstly, from Wiktionary, as it's a good way to gauge the general public's perception of a word. Secondly, from the Oxford English Dictionary.
Civilization, an organized culture encompassing many communities, human society. Civil, behaving in a reasonable or polite manner. Civilized, having a highly developed society or culture, showing evidence of moral and intellectual advancement, humane, reasonable, ethical, marked by refinement in taste and manners. Uncivilized, crude, barbarous, wild, uncultured, used to describe behaviors deemed savage or inappropriate. Civil, orderly, well-governed, educated, refined, sober, decent, grave, humane, gentle, polite, decently polite as in not actually rude. Civilization, the action or process of civilizing or being civilized, civilized condition or state. Civilize, to bring out of a state of barbarism, to instruct in the arts of life, to enlighten and refine, to make proper in a civil community, to become civilized or elevated. Uncivil, barbarous, unrefined, not courteous, impolite, unmannerly, indecorous, improper, contrary to civil well-being. I could easily go on a lot longer, but I think I've made my point.
So cutting back, you can see that there are implications. If you label one society as civilized, then you are implicitly calling it various forms of good. And by qualifying one society as a civilization and excluding another, you are casting implied judgment upon the quote-unquote uncivilized. All of these problems are interlinked very tightly. They all tie into each other. The only appropriate use of the word is as a poetic synonym for society. Intentionally or not, the word civilization, in any kind of academic or technical sense, has invariably been used as a stick by which larger cultures beat those smaller than themselves.